There is a generation alive today that carries a rare form of knowledge, not stored in books or clouds, but in lived experience. It remembers a world before constant connectivity, before every movement, preference, and hesitation was quietly translated into data. This memory is not nostalgia, it is evidence. It is proof that human life once followed rhythms shaped more by biology and culture than by algorithms. As this generation fades, something more than people are disappearing. A reference point is vanishing. For most of human history, reality was something people encountered directly. News arrived slowly. Opinions were shaped by proximity, not by viral reach. Mistakes could dissolve into time instead of being archived forever. Identity was built through long processes of trial, silence, and reflection. This did not make humans wiser by default, but it gave them space to become themselves without constant observation. That space is now shrinking, and with it, a particular understanding of what it means to be human. When memory dies, comparison dies with it. Future generations will not know that attention once belonged primarily to the individual. They will not sense that constant interruption is unusual. They will grow up assuming that life has always been filtered, ranked, nudged, and optimized. What feels intrusive to one generation will feel invisible to the next. Control becomes most powerful when it stops being noticed. This is not the first time humanity has forgotten its past. But it may be the first time forgetting happens so quickly and so completely. Writing once threatened memory by externalizing it onto clay and paper. Yet those technologies preserve the idea that humans think first and tools follow. Today, tools are beginning to think faster than humans, and humans are slowly adapting themselves to the pace and logic of machines. Memory becomes a liability in a system that rewards speed, novelty, and immediate reaction. A society without living memory is easy to redesign. If no one remembers what unmeasured life felt like, then measurement seems harmless. If no one remembers privacy, surveillance appears protective. If no one remembers deep focus, distraction feels normal. Power no longer needs to convince or coerce. It simply frames reality, and people adapt. Technology does not impose itself through violence. It advances through convenience. Humans accept it not because they are forced, but because resistance feels impractical. Each step seems small. A little more sharing, a little more tracking, a little more automation. No single decision appears dangerous. Yet taken together, they quietly reshape the boundaries of freedom. The generation that remembers an earlier world also remembers something else, the slowness of understanding. Learning once required patience. Knowledge was earned through effort, not instantly retrieved. Today, answers are immediate, but understanding is rare. Information has multiplied, but wisdom has not kept pace. When memory of struggle disappears, learning becomes shallow. People know more facts, yet understand less context. As lived experience fades, reality itself becomes negotiable. When people no longer trust memory, they rely on systems to tell them what happened, what matters, and what to feel. Algorithms do not remember in the human sense, they calculate. They do not ask why something matters, they predict what will keep attention. Over time, prediction replaces reflection. This shift is not neutral. Systems optimize for engagement reward emotion over accuracy, certainty over doubt, and speed over depth. A generation that never experienced alternative modes of thinking may assume this is simply how the mind works. But the human brain did not evolve to consume endless streams of fragmented stimuli. It evolved to notice patterns slowly, to form meaning through repetition, and to bond through presence. When presence disappears, empathy weakens. When conversations are mediated by screens, complexity is reduced. Nuance is lost. Memory, which once carried lessons across generations, becomes compressed into searchable fragments. What cannot be summarized or monetized begins to vanish from public life. The danger is not that machines will become conscious. The danger is that humans will forget consciousness requires effort. Awareness is not automatic. It must be practiced. Without memory of a more attentive life, people may stop valuing attention altogether. And when attention loses value, truth loses its defense. The generation that remembers what life was like before this transition stands at a fragile point in history. It still has the ability to compare. It still knows that constant connectivity is not the same as connection, that optimization is not meaning, that efficiency is not wisdom. Once this generation is gone, these distinctions may survive only as abstract ideas, not as felt realities. Education in such a future risks becoming training rather than understanding. Students may learn how to operate systems without questioning their purpose. Critical thinking, which depends on distance and reflection, becomes difficult in an environment designed for immediacy. Without memory of slower thinking, speed becomes the only standard. For thousands of years, humans shaped tools. Now tools are shaping humans, not through malice, but through design. The logic of machines is entering human behavior, redefining what feels natural. If no one remembers a different logic, there is no internal resistance. This is how forgetting changes the course of history, not through dramatic collapse, but through silent normalization. A world optimized for comfort can still be profoundly alienating. A world rich in information can still be poor in meaning. A world constantly connected can still feel empty. The loss of memory is not inevitable, but it is accelerating. Remembering requires intention. It requires protecting spaces where attention is not harvested and experience is not quantified. It requires teaching future generations that human value does not come from visibility, performance, or data. If that effort fails, humanity will not be conquered. It will simply drift. And drift is harder to notice than destruction. Convenience has quietly replaced wisdom, and speed has replaced depth, without any public debate or formal decision. No one voted to trade long-term understanding for instant answers, yet this exchange now defines everyday life. For most of human history, knowledge was slow. It required patience, memory, and effort. Learning meant sitting with uncertainty, repeating ideas until they settled into understanding. Today, information arrives instantly, but understanding does not. The faster answers come, the less time the mind spends forming questions. Speed feels like progress, yet it often erodes the very processes that once made intelligence meaningful. Depth is demanding. It asks humans to tolerate confusion, to remain focused when nothing immediately rewards them. Modern systems are designed to eliminate precisely these experiences. Notifications interrupt thought before it becomes uncomfortable. Feeds refresh before boredom forces reflection. Algorithms are not malicious, they are efficient. Their goal is to keep attention moving, not to let it rest. But wisdom grows only in stillness. A society that never pauses cannot see where it is going. Connection has also replaced understanding. Humans have never been more linked, yet rarely have they felt so fragmented. Digital communication creates the illusion of presence without the burden of empathy. It allows participation without responsibility, expression without listening. In earlier eras, social bonds were limited but deep, shaped by shared physical reality. Today, relationships are numerous but thin, mediated by systems that reward visibility rather than sincerity. This transformation changes not only how people relate to others, but how they relate to themselves. When external validation becomes constant, internal judgment weakens. People begin to experience their own lives as performances, measured in reactions rather than meaning. Moments are evaluated not by how they are lived, but by how they appear. Over time, the self becomes something to manage, optimize, and present. This is not vanity, it is adaptation. Humans adjust to the incentives of their environment, and the current environment rewards speed, exposure, and response, not reflection. The danger is subtle. No one wakes up one day and decides to abandon wisdom. Instead, wisdom becomes inefficient. It takes too long, produces no immediate signal, and offers no measurable metric. In contrast, convenience delivers instant relief. It removes friction, choice, and doubt. Yet friction is where judgment forms. Choice is where responsibility lives. Doubt is where learning begins. When these are engineered out of daily life, the human mind adapts by becoming reactive rather than reflective. Future generations may never know what silence felt like, not enforced silence, but chosen silence. The kind that once existed between moments, when nothing demanded attention and the mind wandered freely. Silence was not empty, it was fertile. It allowed thoughts to connect, memories to surface, and emotions to clarify. In a world of constant input, silence appears threatening, even wasteful. It is quickly filled because emptiness has become uncomfortable. Boredom, once a universal human experience, is also disappearing. For most of history, boredom was unavoidable. It pushed humans to invent, imagine, and question. It forced the mind to turn inward. Today, boredom is treated as a technical failure, instantly corrected by entertainment. When boredom vanishes, creativity weakens. Without empty space, nothing new has room to emerge. Minds trained to consume continuously struggle to eat independently. There was also a time when much of life went unrecorded. Experiences existed only in memory, shaped by emotion rather than documentation. People remembered moments not because they were shared, but because they mattered. Today, memory is increasingly outsourced. Devices remember for us, store for us, and remind us. This changes the nature of remembering itself. When memory becomes external, personal meaning becomes optional. Events are saved, but not always understood. Unrecorded life had a strange power. It belonged entirely to those who lived it. It did not need validation, visibility, or permanence. When everything is documented, life slowly shifts from being lived to being archived. The present moment becomes a preparation for future viewing. Attention moves away from experience and toward representation. Over time, people may forget how to be fully present in moments that leave no trace. This transformation does not require oppression. It requires only habit. Technologies shape behavior, not by force, but by repetition. What is repeated becomes normal. What is normal becomes invisible. Future humans may never ask what it means to live without constant stimulation, because the question itself will feel meaningless. They will not feel deprived, they will feel optimized. Education too is changing under these conditions. Knowledge is abundant, but understanding is scarce. Students learn to search rather than to think, to summarize rather than to question. Memory is devalued because machines remember better. But memory is not just storage, it is context. Without internal memory, ideas float without roots. A person who remembers nothing internally depends entirely on external systems to decide what matters. As lived memory fades, reality becomes easier to manipulate. When no one remembers a different rhythm of life, any rhythm feels natural. Systems that track, predict, and influence behavior will not appear intrusive, they will appear helpful. Guidance will replace choice. Recommendation will replace exploration. Humans will still feel free, but freedom without awareness is fragile. The loss here is not nostalgia for the past. Every era loses something and gains something. The danger lies in losing the ability to recognize loss itself. A society that cannot imagine alternatives cannot choose wisely. It can only continue. What remains possible, even now, is attention. Attention is the last space not fully automated. It is limited, fragile, and easily captured, but it is still human. Where attention goes, values follow. To protect attention is not to reject technology, but to place it in perspective. Tools should serve human depth, not replace it. The generation that remembers another way of being human still carries a responsibility, even if it does not realize it. Not to resist progress, but to remember complexity. Not to romanticize the past, but to preserve the capacity for reflection. Once that generation is gone, humanity will not suddenly collapse. It will simply move forward without knowing what it left behind. Power has always followed the ability to understand human behavior. In earlier centuries, this understanding came from shared myths, religious narratives, and political ideologies. Today, it comes from data. The shift seems technical, but it is deeply philosophical. When power moves from those who remember human experience to systems that only calculate it, something essential changes. Data systems do not know what it feels like to be confused, inspired, lonely, or hopeful. They only recognize patterns. Yet increasingly, these systems are entrusted with decisions that shape education, work, relationships, and even personal identity. The danger is not that machines will become conscious. The danger is that humans will stop valuing consciousness because it is inefficient. Memory, reflection, doubt, and moral hesitation slow down decision-making. Algorithms remove these pauses. They offer clarity without understanding and speed without wisdom. Over time, societies may begin to treat this as progress rather than loss. What cannot be measured will appear irrelevant. What cannot be optimized will appear wasteful. Human memory once served as a safeguard. Stories passed down through generations reminded people of past mistakes, past freedoms, and past alternatives. When a society remembered famine, it respected food. When it remembered war, it feared violence. When it remembered oppression, it protected rights. But data systems do not remember in this way. They store information without meaning. They do not carry emotional weight, moral lessons, or historical humility. They do not warn, they simply update. As memory loses its authority, calculation gains it. Decisions once guided by ethical debate are reframed as technical problems. Instead of asking what is right, societies ask what is efficient. Instead of asking what is true, they ask what works. This shift is subtle, but it reshapes civilization from the inside. Humans begin to trust systems more than their own judge. Meant not because systems are wise, but because they are confident. Future generations may inherit a world where reality is continuously filtered and adjusted. News, education, and even personal relationships will be shaped by invisible processes designed to maximize engagement, stability, or profit. In such a world, disagreement will feel unnatural. Complexity will feel threatening. Independent thought will feel exhausting. The system will not silence people. It will simply make alternative ways of thinking feel unnecessary. This is how human agency erodes without violence. People will still vote, choose, and express opinions, but the range of choices will be quietly narrowed. Desires will feel personal, even when they are engineered. Beliefs will feel authentic, even when they are reinforced by feedback loops. The individual will not feel controlled, which makes control far more effective. When experience is replaced by prediction, identity becomes fragile. Humans once learned who they were through slow encounters with reality, failure, waiting, struggle, and reflection. These processes built resilience and self-knowledge. But systems that anticipate needs before they are felt remove friction. Life becomes smoother, but also thinner. Without resistance, the self has nothing to push against, nothing to discover itself through. This matters because meaning does not emerge from comfort. It emerges from confrontation with uncertainty. A world that constantly reassures, guides, and entertains may feel safe, but it cannot teach wisdom. And wisdom, unlike information, cannot be downloaded. It must be lived. If a society forgets what it means to be fully human, it will stop defending humanity itself. Privacy will seem obsolete. Silence will seem empty. Deep attention will seem inefficient. Even freedom may come to feel like a burden rather than a right. People will ask why they should choose for themselves when systems can choose better. This is not tyranny imposed from above. It is abdication from below. The generation that still remembers unmediated life carries an invisible responsibility. Not to reject technology, but to contextualize it. Not to romanticize the past, but to remind the future that alternatives exist. Memory is not nostalgia, it is a compass. Without it, progress loses direction. Education, therefore, is no longer just about skills. It is about preserving the capacity to question. A technically advanced society without critical thinking is not strong, it is vulnerable. It can be guided, nudged, and redirected with minimal resistance. When people stop asking why, they will accept almost any how. Focus becomes a moral choice in such an environment. To focus is to reclaim time from systems designed to fragment it. To think deeply is to resist constant stimulation. To remember is to challenge the assumption that the present arrangement is inevitable. These are not small acts, they are the foundations of autonomy. History teaches that humans rarely lose freedom in one dramatic moment. They lose it gradually, while gaining comfort. They trade responsibility for convenience, uncertainty for guidance, and meaning for optimization. By the time the trade is complete, it no longer feels like a loss. It feels like normal life. The question facing this generation is not whether technology will shape the future. It already does. The question is whether human memory, attention, and moral imagination will survive long enough to shape technology in return. Because once memory disappears, calculation will rule alone, and the human story will continue, efficient, organized, and profoundly unaware of what it has forgotten. We often imagine that the greatest threats arrive loudly, with force and fear. In reality, the most decisive changes arrive quietly, wrapped in comfort and efficiency. Nothing is taken suddenly. It is simply forgotten, and what is forgotten is rarely defended. The generation that still remembers life before constant mediation stands at a rare point in history. It is not superior, but it is aware. Awareness is not nostalgia, it is responsibility. Remembering what it felt like to think without interruption, to choose without guidance, to live without being continuously measured, is not about returning to the past. It is about protecting the future. Progress without memory is not progress. It is movement without direction. Technology without wisdom does not liberate. It manages. And a society that no longer remembers what it means to be human will not notice when humanity slowly becomes optional. The future will be shaped not by how powerful our systems become, but by whether humans remain capable of questioning them. That capacity begins with attention, grows with reflection, and survives only through memory. Losing it will not feel like defeat. It will feel like normal life. Thank you for giving your attention in a world designed to take it away. Thank you for listening, for thinking, and for choosing awareness over noise. As long as people are still willing to remember, to question, and to focus, the human story is not over.
If you only give a company or an algorithm the goal of increasing production, which in social media means increasing engagement, produce more time spent on the platform, this will not regulate itself. And here we need intervention of government to regulate it. And the two most obvious regulations, first of all, companies should be liable for the actions of their algorithms. The companies constantly try to confuse people by saying this is against free speech. The government wants us to censor our users. And this is, I think, deliberate obfuscation, deliberate confusion. The issue is not what the users are doing. The issue is what the algorithms of the company are doing. If somebody publishes a hate-filled conspiracy theory, at least my personal opinion is that except in very extreme circumstances, it should not be censored and the person should not be punished. The problem is not with the human being who published this hate-filled post. The problem is that the Facebook algorithm or the TikTok algorithm now takes this post and deliberately shows it to millions of other people because it assumes that it will increase engagement. This is the problem.
The situation is very difficult because we see that humans are losing trust in each other. The order is collapsing, both within countries and also between countries. Maybe the most worrying thing is that there is no leadership for humanity at the present moment, because the strongest country in the world, the United States, now openly says that it cares mainly about making itself stronger, even at the expense of other countries. At this moment in history, what we need above all is to have good leadership that will unite humanity instead of dividing it in order to deal with both climate change and the rise of artificial intelligence.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for the invitation. I don't have much time, so in this brief talk, I would like to raise three big questions. First, what is AI? Secondly, what is the danger of AI? And thirdly, how can humanity flourish in the era of AI? So let's begin with the question of what is AI. There is so much hype around AI that the term is now inaccurately applied to almost every machine, and it is becoming difficult to know what it really means. So let me be very, very clear. AI does not mean automation. AI means agency. AI isn't a tool in our hands. AI is an agent. To be an AI, it is not enough for a machine to act automatically. It must also have the capacity to learn and change by itself, to make decisions by itself, and to invent new ideas by itself. As a simple example, consider a coffee machine. If you press a button and the machine automatically makes you an espresso according to a pre-programmed procedure, this is not AI. The machine hasn't learned or created anything new. But suppose that as you approach the machine, even before you press any button, the machine says, "I've been monitoring you for several weeks. Based on everything I've learned about you and about many other humans, I predict that you would like an espresso. So I already made you a cup." That's an AI. It learned something and decided something by itself. And it's really an AI if on the following day the machine announces, "I've now invented a new drink, which I think you would like even better than espresso. Here, try it out. I've made you a cup." In addition to agency, the other key characteristic of AI is that it is an alien, non-organic agent. Its intelligence is not human and not even organic. It makes decisions and invents ideas that would not occur to human beings. A very famous example was the way that the AI AlphaGo defeated the human Go champion Lee Sedol in 2016. This game became rightly famous not just because an AI defeated a human Go master, but because in order to win, AlphaGo invented new alien strategies that never occurred to human players in thousands of years of Go culture before. As long as AI invents new ways to play games or new kinds of coffee, it doesn't seem very important. However, AI may soon invent new military and financial strategies, new kinds of weapons and currencies, and even entirely new ideologies and religions. So now let's move to the second question. What is the danger of AI? Of course, AI has enormous positive potential, and it can help humanity in countless ways, from inventing new medicines to helping to prevent catastrophic climate change. But AI also poses many threats. The basic problem with AI is that it is an alien agent and therefore unpredictable and untrustworthy. At the heart of the race to develop super intelligent AI, there is a paradox of trust. Humans find it difficult to trust other humans, but some of us nevertheless believe that we should trust the AIs. When I travel around the world and meet the people who lead the development of AI, I routinely ask them two questions. First, I ask, why are they moving so fast despite the huge risks? And the response almost all of them give is, we agree that there are big dangers and it would be best to proceed with care and invest more in safety. However, if we slow down while our competitors don't slow down, they will win the AI race and the world will be dominated by the most ruthless people. We cannot trust our human competitors, so we must move as fast as possible. Then I ask the second question. Do you think you could trust the super intelligent AIs that you are developing? And the same people who just told me that they cannot trust their human competitors now assure me that they can trust the super intelligent AIs they are developing. And this is such a paradox. We have thousands of years of experience with human beings. We have a broad understanding of human psychology and biology, of the human craving for power, and of the forces that keep the pursuit of power in check. We have also made considerable progress in finding ways to build trust between humans. 100,000 years ago, people lived in tiny bands of just a few dozen individuals and couldn't trust anybody outside their band. Today, in contrast, there are nations like China with 1.4 billion citizens, and there are networks of cooperation connecting all 8 billion humans on the planet. Total strangers often grow the food that sustains us and invent the medicines that protect us. Of course, we are far from completely solving the problem of human trust, but at least we understand the challenge that we are facing. In contrast, we have almost no experience with AIs. We have just created the first prototypes. We already know that even primitive AIs can lie, manipulate, and adopt goals and strategies not foreseen by the human developers. We have no idea what will happen when millions of super intelligent AI agents interact with millions of humans. It is even more difficult to predict what will happen when millions of super intelligent AI agents interact with one another. True, since at present it is humans who develop the AIs, we can try to design them in a way that will make them safe. But recall that a machine is an AI only if it is capable of learning and changing by itself. So no matter how humans designed them originally, the AI can then change in a radical and unpredictable manner. One way to think about the AI revolution is by comparing it to an alien invasion from outer space. Suppose you are told that spaceships full of highly intelligent aliens are approaching Earth and will land on our planet by 2030. We hope these aliens will be friendly and will help us overcome cancer, prevent climate change, and build a flourishing and peaceful world. But most people intuitively understand that it would be dangerous to entrust our future to the goodwill of these aliens. Similarly, it is a huge gamble to assume that we can simply trust the AI agents we are developing to remain our obedient servants. The humans who despair of trusting other humans but hope it would be easier to trust the AIs may be making a very big mistake. So let me move to the last question. How can humanity flourish in the era of AI? The answer is simple. Together, humans can control AI. But if we fight one another, AI will control us. Therefore, we should build more trust between humans before we develop truly super intelligent AI agents. Unfortunately, at present, we are doing exactly the opposite. All over the world, trust between humans is collapsing. The crisis of trust results from a big misunderstanding. Too many countries think that to be strong means to trust no one and to be completely separated from the others. But complete separation is impossible. Indeed, in nature, complete separation is death. Think about the human body as an example. Every minute, we breathe in and out, in and out. Every breath we take is a small gesture of trust in what is outside us. We take air from the outside into our lungs, into our body, and later give it back to the universe. This trusting in and out movement is the rhythm of life. If we distrust everything outside us and therefore stop this in and out movement, we die. This is true of entire nations too. Each nation is a different combination of traditions and ideas, but many of these traditions and ideas come from the outside, just like the air that we breathe. China, for example, has given over thousands of years so much to other countries, from the ideas of Confucius and Mao to tea, Go, gunpowder, and printing. It has also received so much from other places, from the ideas of Buddha and Karl Marx to coffee, football, trains, and computers. If people belonging to any nation restrict themselves only to the food, the games, and the ideas that originated in their own nations, our lives would be very poor, if not impossible. Every human belongs to some group, but every human also belongs to the whole human species. And in the age of AI, if we forget our shared human legacies and lose trust in everything and everybody outside us, that will make us very easy prey for an out-of-control AI. Too many people think that the legacies of history are mainly pain and fear. People read in history books about past wars, atrocities, and injustices, and as a result, they cling to past pains and they fear future pains. They look around at other people and other nations with nothing but anxiety. While fear and pain are, of course, important for survival, And while they sometimes protect us from danger, nobody can survive on a diet of fear and pain alone. History teaches us that trust is more important than either. Do you know why planet Earth is ruled by humans and not by chimpanzees or elephants? Not because humans are more intelligent. Humans rule the world because we know better than any other animal how to build trust with strangers and cooperate in very, very large numbers. We have developed this ability for thousands of years. Now it is more important than ever. To survive and flourish in the age of AI, we need to trust other humans more than we trust AI. Thank you.